Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and we are continuing our season preview videos today, heading to the Western Conference down in the state of Tennessee, looking at the Nashville Predators. Alright, so the Predators are an interesting bunch. The expectation this summer was for Barry Trotz to come in and completely blow it up and rebuild this franchise. Seems to be kind of holding off that whole rebuild thing, though, because he brought in some interesting veterans via free agency. They had a bunch of cap space going into the summer, and they used it in an interesting way, and we're going to see if it'll hopefully pay off for the Predators going into this season. So, looking at the Nashville Predators, the one certainty on this team is goaltending. And hopefully nobody clips this video in a couple months and UC Saros is a terrible goalie and this and that. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. UC Saros is the bedrock of the Nashville Predators, and everything kind of builds off from there. UC Saros has been very good for the Predators the last couple years. He has not had it below a .915 save percentage since the 2018-19 season, and he had a .914 in the 19-20 season. So his numbers have been incredible. And in his NHL career, the only time he had less than a .915 save percentage virtually is his first year, where he played one game and had an .870 save percentage in that one game. So other than that, UC Saros has been an extremely, extremely good goalie in Nashville. Now from there, kind of building off the back end, you've got Roman Josi, Ryan McDonough, and Tyson Barrie. And those three were the guys that came into this season. Now you've added a couple of other players, which we'll get to in a minute. And then up front, they've completely reworked up front too. So looking at some of the moves that Barry Trotz made, he brought in Ryan O'Reilly and Luke Schenn over from the from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I almost said the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they came in a package down to Nashville. I think that was a really good move. The question isn't really going to be those players, because you know what you get in Luke Schenn. You know what you get in Ryan O'Reilly. Even guys like Gustav Nyquist. You know what you're getting in those players. My bigger issue is around those guys. Who is going to step up, and is there going to be enough guys that step up? Because we saw some really promising things from the Nashville Predators at the end of the season, and ultimately they missed out on the playoffs last season, and that was obviously unfortunate. And we know how good those fans are, especially in the playoffs in Smashville. But the reality is they had some really promising things to build on for this season. Guys like Yakov Trenin, Phil Tomasino, Juuso Parssinen, Luke Evangelista, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. Igor Afanasyev. All those guys look really good up front for the Nashville Predators down the stretch and almost got this team into the playoffs. But you kind of hit a brick wall when you realize, well, those were guys at the end of the season when they were kind of playing with house money, just happy to play in the NHL. Are they going to be able to do that for a full 82-game schedule to actually push this team to the playoffs? And that's kind of where the questions arise for the Nashville Predators, because, like I said, I will not criticize the move of bringing in O'Reilly and Schenn, because I think those were great moves. And even Nyquist, as maybe expensive as that price tag looks, you know what you're getting from those guys. But like I said, what about the younger players? Are we going to finally see the emergence of Dante Fabro and Alex Carrier, right? Carrier's kind of been carrying that blue line with Roman Josi, right? When are we going to see Cody Glass pop off? A little bit more from Yakov Trenin. I think that's a guy that fans have been waiting to see pop off a little bit more. Hopefully he's able to do that. Denis Gurianov comes from Montreal. He wasn't able to work things out in Dallas, got traded at the deadline to Montreal. Things didn't work out. Now he ends up in Nashville. So there's a couple guys that are trying to prove that they should be in the NHL here. And I think those are going to be important players that ultimately are going to decide whether Nashville gets in the playoffs or not. And when I have my players to watch, well, let's go with rookies first. So rookies to look at, Igor Afanasyev, I think is definitely a guy to watch. We saw him a little bit last season. I think he'll start the season in Milwaukee, but if there's injuries, he will definitely get a call up from the Admirals. Yaroslav Askarov, it looks to be this point they're going to go with Kevin Lankinen and UC Saros, but I think Askarov will get a shot in the NHL. We know how Barry Trotz runs things. He likes to be very slow with the development of players on the back end, and they're definitely in between the pipes. So they're going to take their time with Askarov. They might dip his toe in the water a little bit this season, but it's definitely going to be limited. Another guy I would keep an eye on, I don't think he's actually going to play for the Predators, but he is signed to his ELC, and he is, unless he goes back to Finland, he could be playing in the AHL, which does mean he could be fighting for an NHL spot. That's Joakim Kemmel, who was a very highly regarded prospect that they got in the first round of this year's draft. And going at 17th overall, there is an expectation he could find himself landing an NHL job, more likely the AHL, but he might be skating around that first lap at some point this season with the Predators, so he's worth at least mentioning. So that leaves me with my breakout player, and this one's kind of interesting because I'm not going with the guys that we know, right? The Shens and the O'Reillys and the Yossis and the McDonoughs. We already know those guys are good. Which one of those younger players can develop and get to that next step? And we know about Alex Carrier. I'm not necessarily sold on Dante Fabro. I'm not going to die on a hill for him. I am going to die on a hill, though, here for a guy like Juuso Parssinen. And I think what we saw at the end of the season from him, that growth in his game, you look at what he did last year. He played with the Milwaukee Admirals. He had 9 points in 10 games, so he was basically a point-per-game player. He forced Nashville to bring him up to the NHL, and he followed that up with a pretty nice campaign in his first year in the NHL with 25 points in 45 games down the stretch with the Predators. And for a team that's always been known for not being a great goal-scoring team, that's a guy that if he could put a couple more pucks in the back of the net, he had 6 goals last year. If he could get that to 15 to 20 goals this year over a full 82-game schedule, I think that could be a breakout player for the Nashville Predators. So I'm going to go with Juuso Parssinen. So that leaves me with my prediction. I think Nashville is a very respectable team with goaltending like that, with some veterans like Josi, Schenn, McDonough, and even Ryan O'Reilly. This is a team that's they're gonna give a run for their money there in that Central Division. But with that all said, they're gonna finish the season with between 35 to 40 wins and anywhere between 80 to 85 points. I think Nashville's a very good team, an up-and-coming team, and in a state of transition, as this team is kind of a borderline rebuilding team, but adding some of the guys that they did here this summer and not just taking on dead contracts definitely gives Nashville an opportunity here to compete in that division. But like I said, that division is going to be very tough this year. St. Louis, I think, is going to be a lot better than they were last year. That's one to watch. Minnesota made the playoffs last year. They look like a pretty good team still. Dallas, we know what Dallas is capable of. They're a tough out, especially during the regular season and come playoff time. And, of course, the Colorado Avalanche. So there's 4 teams in this division that can legitimately compete for a Stanley Cup. And that's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough road for Nashville to try and overcome. But I think they could potentially overcome that. I'm not going to say whether they make the playoffs or not officially, but I would be confident. I wouldn't bet money on it, but I would be confident that Nashville can get to the playoffs this year. A lot of the question is, are you expecting the younger players to step up enough to help out the core players on this team? Because the core players are there. It's can the secondary guys and the tertiary guys come in and get that extra scoring, add that extra depth to the team that they need. And this could actually be a pretty good Nashville Predators team. So I'm going to say they make the playoffs, probably one of the wild card spots, but I'm going to go with Nashville making the playoffs with anywhere between 80 to 85 points. Maybe even more than that, depending on if they can really hold out. So, guys, let me know what you think down below. What do you think of the Nashville Predators? Do you think they're a playoff team here in 2023, 2024? Or do you think they're going to miss out in Barry Trotz's first season as GM of the Predators? Guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time.